The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, a film documentary about the novel by L. Frank Baum. On May 17th, 1900, L. Frank Baum handmade the very first copy of his children's novel, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. He went on to present it to the public at a book fair that summer, and the novel was officially published, distributed, and entirely sold out of its first edition by that fall. 2 years after its publication, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was adapted into a stage musical for adults. Much different from the well-known MGM film that would come 37 years later. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz tells the story of Dorothy, a young girl who lives with her Uncle Henry and Aunt Em on their farm in a bleak and dreary Kansas setting. The novel sees Dorothy and her dog Toto being carried away with the house by a cyclone to the magical land of Oz. The narrative sees Dorothy facing multiple adventures and trials while meeting new friends and enemies as she journeys through Oz to meet the land's ruler, the Wizard of Oz, the only resident of Oz believed to be powerful enough to return her home to Kansas. The key friends that Dorothy meets in the novel are the Good Witch of the North, who gives her the silver shoes, taken from the Wicked Witch of the East, who was crushed to death by Dorothy's house when it fell upon her. The Scarecrow, who she rescues from the pole he's attached to, inviting him to share her journey, that the wizard may grant his deepest wish, to be provided the brains he was neglected when assembled by the farmer. Nick Chopper, the Tin Woodman, whom Dorothy and the Scarecrow rescue from a frozen, rusted state. He recounts the story of how he came to be made of tin. The Wicked Witch of the East enchanted his axe, which then chopped off his limbs one by one. Each time this happened, Nick replaced the missing body part with a fake one made of tin, and this went on until his whole body was made of tin. He mostly mourns, though, that the tinsmith never replaced his heart, leaving him unable to love. He joins the Scarecrow and Dorothy in the hopes that the wizard can remedy this. The Cowardly Lion, who feels his constant fear of everything around him, makes him an inadequate king of the beasts. He too joins the quest, wishing to be granted the courage he lacks by the wizard. The companions follow a road made of yellow brick to make their way to the Emerald City, home to the wonderful wizard. Some of the enemies they encounter include vicious animals with the bodies of bears and the heads of tigers. The Wicked Witch of the West, whom the wizard orders them to kill in order to grant their wishes. The Wicked Witch of the West rules Winky Country and desperately wants Dorothy's silver shoes. She is an old hag with pigtails and only one eye. The witch sees the companions approaching her castle and sends wolves, crows, and bees to attack them. Each is bested by the friends, though, the Tin Woodman killing the wolves with his axe and deflecting the bees off his metal chest, and the Scarecrow breaking the crows' necks. She also sends Winky soldiers after the companions, but the lion frightens them off. The Wicked Witch's final attempt to defeat Dorothy and her friends comes when she uses the magical golden cap to summon the winged monkeys, and this plan works as the monkeys capture the companions and bring them straight to the witch. Dorothy is made to work as a servant for the Wicked Witch, and the witch tricks her into forfeiting one of her silver shoes. Out of anger, Dorothy throws a bucket of water onto the witch, who, as a result, melts away completely. As for the wizard himself, each of the friends must visit him individually, and each sees something entirely different when doing so. Dorothy sees a giant head, the Scarecrow sees a beautiful woman, the Tin Woodman sees a terrible beast, and the Cowardly Lion sees a ball of fire. Upon returning to the Emerald City with the news of the witch's defeat, they discover him to be simply a man from Omaha, Nebraska, who landed in Oz years ago. The wizard gives the Scarecrow a head full of bran, pins, and needles, proclaiming them to be brand new brains. He gives the Tin Woodman a silk heart stuffed with sawdust, and the Cowardly Lion a courage potion. Throughout the novel, The companions each repeatedly demonstrate signs of having the very things they claim to be lacking all along. For example, the Scarecrow seems to think of the most plans when they run into difficulty, and the Tin Woodman cries for a long time after accidentally stepping on a beetle and killing it. Still, they don't see these strengths in themselves and believe they are lacking these important traits, and they have such faith in the wizard that despite the fact that his gifts are virtually useless, they believe them to be exactly what they need. The wizard sees that in order to grant Dorothy her own wish, he must take her back to Kansas himself. He constructs a new hot air balloon, but Dorothy misses the ride when she must chase after Toto, who takes off after a cat. Dorothy and her companions set out again to meet Glinda the Good Witch of the South in Quadling Country. On this quest, they manage to escape fighting trees, armless hammerheads, and a giant spider. And they tread carefully through the China Country, where all the inhabitants are made of delicate china. When they meet Glinda, she uses the golden cap to send the Scarecrow to the Emerald City to serve as its king, the Tin Woodman to Winkie Country to rule there, and the Lion to the forest to take his place as proper king of the beasts. Dorothy, she instructs, may return to Kansas or to anywhere she wishes, by knocking the heels of the silver shoes together and making a wish. After saying tearful goodbyes to her friends, she does just that and finds herself back home, running to announce her return to her aunt and uncle. Though never conclusively proven, some have interpreted The Wonderful Wizard of Oz to be an allegory about America's economy at the time the novel was written. According to this theory, the yellow brick road represented gold, the silver shoes silver, of course, and the Emerald City the money of the economy itself. The wizard is said to be the President of the United States, the Scarecrow a symbol for farmers, and the Tin Woodman a representation of the quickly escalating industrialization going on in the country. Baum went on to write 13 more books about Oz, introducing many new characters and often bringing back the ones introduced in the first book. Even after his death, other writers went on to continue the series. The book has spawned animated films, a classic 1939 musical film, a dark 1980s sequel, Return to Oz, based largely on books 2 and 3 of the Oz series, and many alternate versions, interpretations, and merchandising, leaving behind a legacy greater than the great and terrible Oz himself.